A monk once told me, "The mind is like fire. It can burn you, or it can warm you." That sentence stayed with me because it's true. Most of us are living with a fire we can't control. Every morning, we wake up not just to an alarm clock, but to a flood of thoughts. What do I have to do today? Why did I say that yesterday? What if everything goes wrong? Before we even brush our teeth, we're already tired. Not because of what's happening outside, but because of the noise happening inside. We live in a storm of thinking. Regret from the past, fear of the future, endless judgment, comparing, planning, doubting. And the worst part is, we believe it's just who we are. But here's the truth. You don't have to silence your thoughts. You simply have to see them differently. In this video, you'll discover how Buddhist monks relate to their minds with wisdom, not war. You'll learn ancient techniques that bring peace and how to apply them in the middle of modern chaos. This isn't about escaping life. It's about finally arriving in it. So take a quiet breath, and instead of chasing calm, let calm find you. Let's begin. Most of us live our entire lives without ever questioning the voice inside our head. The narrator, the planner, the critic, the worrier. It speaks all day long. It tells us who we are, what will happen, what's wrong, what's not enough. And we believe it. Not because it's true, but because it's constant. But here's the thing. Just because a thought appears doesn't mean it's real, or helpful, or even yours. In Buddhist psychology, the mind is often called the monkey mind. Restless, impulsive, always jumping from branch to branch, thought to thought, desire to desire, worry to worry. One moment you're thinking about breakfast. The next, you're replaying an argument from 5 years ago. Then you're imagining the worst possible future. Why? Because the untrained mind doesn't know how to rest. It doesn't know how to be still. So it keeps moving and pulling you with it. Let me ask you something. Have you ever tried to sit in silence for just 5 minutes and felt like your mind got louder? That's not a failure. That's the truth of the mind revealing itself. Most people think they're in control of their thoughts until they try to be still. Then they realize the thoughts are in control of them. From a Buddhist point of view, this happens because we haven't trained the mind. Just like an untamed horse, a wild mind can throw you in any direction at any time. And it has certain habits. It clings to pleasure. It resists pain. It constantly seeks distraction. It fears the unknown. But here's what makes it more dangerous. The mind creates stories about who you are, what others think, what will happen if you fail. And when you believe those stories, you suffer. Not because life is chaotic, but because your thoughts about life are. As the Buddha said, your worst enemy cannot harm you as much as your own unguarded thoughts. Most of our suffering doesn't come from life itself. It comes from our resistance to life, our attachment to outcomes, our judgment of what is. So, why do our thoughts control us? Because no one taught us otherwise. Because we were never shown how to observe thought instead of becoming thought. Because the world praises thinking, but rarely teaches us how to think wisely. But here's the good news. The mind is not the enemy. It's just untrained. And anything untrained can be trained. The same way monks train the mind to become steady, you too can learn to recognize your thoughts, not as facts, but as passing clouds in the sky. In the next section, we'll explore how Buddhist wisdom helps you do exactly that. Not just calming the mind, but transforming your relationship with it. Because true peace doesn't come from stopping thought. It comes from no longer fearing it. Let's continue. Most people see the mind as a problem, as something noisy, something broken, something they wish they could turn off. But in Buddhism, the mind is not seen as the enemy. The mind is seen as a tool, a powerful creative force, capable of deep insight or deep illusion. The Buddha never said the mind was bad. He said the mind was luminous, radiant by nature, but often clouded by impurities, thoughts, desires, fears, attachments. They cover the mind like dust on a mirror. But the mirror is still there. It's still pure underneath. It just needs to be cleaned. That's the Buddhist view. The mind is not something to escape from. It's something to understand, to observe, to train, and eventually to master. In the Dhammapada, one of the oldest collections of the Buddha's teachings, it says, "All that we are is the result of what we have thought. The mind is everything. What we think, we become." This is one of the most radical teachings in Buddhism. The quality of your life depends on the quality of your mind, not your job, not your relationship, not your past, but the way you see, the way you relate, the way you interpret every moment. Let's look deeper. Buddhism teaches that the mind is constantly moving, jumping between three major states: craving, aversion, and delusion. We want something, we push something away, or we get lost in confusion, over and over again, like a wheel that never stops turning. This is called samsara, the cycle of suffering. And where does it all begin? In the mind. That's why Buddhist practice doesn't try to fix the outside world. It focuses inward. Because if you transform the mind, you transform your experience of the world. There's a beautiful analogy in Buddhist tradition. The mind is like water. If it's agitated, you can't see through it. But if it becomes still, you can see clearly. So what causes the disturbance? Our attachments, our judgments, our clinging to what we want things to be, and our resistance to how things actually are. This is why monks spend years observing the mind, watching thoughts arise and fade, not clinging, not resisting, just seeing. And over time, they begin to see the truth. Thoughts are not who we are. They are events in consciousness, temporary, conditioned, not personal. Imagine sitting beside a road and watching cars drive by. Each car is a thought. Some are fast, some are noisy, some are strange. But you don't have to chase them. You don't have to jump in. You can simply watch. Let them come. Let them go. This is mindfulness. This is what the Buddha taught. The Buddhist view of the mind is both gentle and radical. It doesn't say, control your thoughts. It says, know them, understand them, don't become them. Because the more you observe the mind, the less you are controlled by it. And the more space you create between stimulus and response, the more freedom you discover. As the Buddha said, nothing can harm you more than your own untamed mind, but nothing can help you more than your own trained mind. That's the invitation of Buddhism, to stop running from thought and to start waking up to it. Because when the mind becomes clear, compassion arises, wisdom arises, peace arises, naturally. It's not something you have to force, it's something you uncover. So the question is no longer, how do I silence my thoughts? The question becomes, how do I relate to my thoughts with wisdom? And the answer begins with training. In the next section, we'll explore 5 powerful techniques used by Buddhist monks, practices that anyone, anywhere, can use to bring more stillness, clarity, and kindness into the mind. Let's go deeper.
In monasteries across Asia and around the world, monks spend years, sometimes lifetimes, training the mind. But they're not trying to stop thoughts. They're learning to master their relationship to thought. You don't need to shave your head or live in a forest to benefit from these practices. You just need presence, intention, and patience. Let's explore 5 powerful techniques that Buddhist monks use every day. Techniques that can help you stay centered, clear, and free. 1. Noticing the first thought. Most of us only realize we're thinking after the mind has already created a storm. But monks train themselves to notice the very first thought, the very beginning of a reaction. This is called sati, or mindfulness. When you notice a thought at its seed level, before it grows into emotion, story, or reaction, you have a moment of choice, a moment to breathe, to observe, to let it pass. Try this. Next time someone says something triggering, don't follow your reaction. Just pause. Ask yourself, what is the very first thought arising here? And then just look at it. Not as good or bad, just as a passing cloud. The more you catch that first flicker, the more freedom you reclaim. 2. Labeling thoughts. Another technique monks use is called mental labeling. When a thought arises, they silently give it a name: planning, judging, remembering, fearing, wanting. This simple act creates distance. It breaks the illusion that you are the thought. Instead, you see it for what it is: a mental event, temporary, not personal. For example, instead of getting lost in an anxious spiral, you gently say, worrying, and that moment of naming brings clarity. It brings awareness. It breaks the spell. 3. The drop-it practice. One of the simplest techniques monks use is this: just drop the thought. When the mind latches onto something, a resentment, a fantasy, an insecurity, you simply recognize it and let it go. How? You say, gently to yourself, not now. Or even just, drop it. This isn't suppression, it's redirection. The mind wants to feed on stories. You're saying, I see you, but I choose peace. It takes practice, but each time you drop a thought, you train your mind to stop clinging. And over time, this becomes second nature. 4. Returning to the breath. This is the heart of most monastic practice, coming back to the breath. Why the breath? Because it's always now. It's always real, and it's always yours. When the mind is overwhelmed, you don't need to fix every thought. You don't need to solve anything. You just return. Inhale. Exhale. Feel the air move through your body. Feel the rise and fall of the chest. Each breath is an anchor. Each breath is a homecoming. You might have to return 100 times. That's okay. Every return is a victory. Every return is a moment of awakening. 5. Loving kindness toward the mind. This last one might surprise you. Monks are taught to treat the mind not like a machine to control, but like a child who needs love. When the mind is busy, reactive, chaotic, they don't get angry at it. They meet it with compassion. Try saying to yourself, "It's okay, mind. You're just doing what you've always done. Thank you for trying to protect me. But I choose peace now." Instead of battling your mind, befriend it. Because only love softens the storm. Only gentleness leads to stillness. So let's review. Monks control their thoughts not through force, but through presence. They notice the first thought. Label thoughts with clarity. Drop the ones that don't serve. Return to the breath again and again. Meet the mind with compassion, not judgment. These are not just spiritual techniques, they're life tools. They're training in peace, in power, in inner freedom. And they're available to you wherever you are. In traffic, in a crowded room, in a moment of anxiety. These practices are always within reach. The goal isn't to have an empty mind. It's to have a mind that no longer runs your life. A monk once said, "The mind is a beautiful servant, but a terrible master." So train it well, not with punishment, but with patience, with kindness, with truth. In the next part of this journey, we'll explore how real people, in the chaos of modern life, use these teachings to stay grounded and free. Because this wisdom isn't meant to stay in temples. It's meant to live in your everyday life. Wisdom is beautiful in books, but it becomes powerful in life. Monks may live in monasteries, but the real test of the mind happens in traffic, at work, in marriage, in grief, in loneliness. Let's explore a few real-life stories where Buddhist wisdom meets real-world chaos. These aren't stories of perfection, they're stories of practice. Story 1. The Corporate Storm. Anna is a project manager in New York. She works in a fast-paced marketing firm. Tight deadlines, demanding clients, a high-pressure team. One day during a meeting, her boss calls her out, harshly, in front of everyone, for something that wasn't even her fault. Her heart races. Her mind screams, "That's unfair! You should say something! You're going to lose respect!" But instead of reacting, Anna remembers something from a mindfulness course she once took. Notice the first thought. She pauses. She breathes. She silently labels the storm inside. Anger, fear, ego, shame. And she just observes it. Later, after the meeting, she calmly explains the truth to her boss in private. No drama, no escalation. She told me later, "That was the first time I felt like I controlled the moment, instead of the moment controlling me." That's Buddhist practice, right there. Not in a cave, but in a boardroom. Story 2. The Grieving Son. Mark lost his mother to cancer. It was sudden, and it shattered him. The days after the funeral, his mind wouldn't stop. What if I had visited more? Why didn't I see the signs? Is she okay? Where is she now? He couldn't sleep. He couldn't focus. He was drowning in thought. Then, one night, he picked up a book on Buddhism. It said, "The mind creates 1,000 questions. Peace comes not from answers, but from presence." So Mark began sitting each morning. Just 5 minutes. No music, no distractions. Just breath. And tears. And breath again. He didn't try to stop the pain. He just made space for it, without judgment. Weeks passed, and one morning he sat in silence and felt, for the first time, not despair, but deep love. He told me, "I stopped trying to fix the grief. I started listening to it." And that's when healing began. Story 3. The Overwhelmed Mother. Lisa is a single mom of 2. She juggles work, school schedules, bills, everything. One evening, her daughter spills milk all over the floor. Lisa explodes. Not because of the milk, but because her mind was already carrying a mountain. Later that night, while the kids are asleep, Lisa feels crushed by guilt. She remembers a quote she once saved. "Be gentle with your mind. It's doing the best it can with the training it has." She closes her eyes, places her hand on her heart, and softly repeats, "Breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I calm my mind." 5 minutes, that's all. But it softens something. She doesn't become a perfect mom overnight, but she becomes a present one. And that changes everything. Story 4. The Tech CEO Who Meditates. David runs a tech startup in San Francisco. His days are packed with meetings, decisions, and data. But every morning, without fail, he sits in silence for 20 minutes. He once said, "Meditation is the only part of my day that isn't pulling me somewhere. It's the one time I'm not being someone. I'm just being." He uses labeling throughout his day. When stress hits, tightness. When ego shows up, wanting recognition. When fear comes, future worry. This simple act keeps him grounded in clarity, in choice. He told me, "Without mindfulness, I'd still be successful, but I wouldn't be peaceful. And what's the point of success if your mind is a battlefield?" Story 5. The Student in Chaos. Emily is a college student. Her roommate betrayed her. Her grades slipped. Her anxiety spiked, and her mind became a hurricane. She tried everything, until she stumbled upon a Buddhist talk on YouTube. It said, "When you're drowning in thought, return to the breath. Thought lives in time. Breath lives in the now." She began a tiny ritual. 3 deep breaths before every class. 3 deep breaths before every reply to a hurtful text. 3 deep breaths before studying. That's it. No incense, no mantra, just breath. A semester later, she said, "My life didn't magically improve, but my relationship to it changed completely." That's the power of practice. Each of these stories has one thing in common. No one escaped difficulty. They just changed how they met it. With presence, with stillness, with compassion. This is the real path of the Buddha. Not escaping the world, but meeting it with wisdom. So ask yourself, where is your mind getting caught today? Where can you apply a pause, a breath, a gentle return? The teachings aren't ancient answers to old problems. They're living truths for this moment, this breath, this choice. You don't need to become a monk to live with a monk's mind. You just need to begin. With one breath, with one kind thought, with one clear seeing. Because peace doesn't arrive when life gets easier. Peace arrives when the mind becomes free. What happens when you no longer believe every thought that appears in your mind? What happens when the storm still comes, but it doesn't shake you anymore? What happens when you finally stop reacting and start seeing? You don't become superhuman. You don't float above problems. You still feel pain. You still face uncertainty. But something shifts, a profound shift. You begin to respond, not react. Before a rude comment might ruin your day, now you pause. You observe. You choose your response. Not from fear, not from habit, but from wisdom. That moment of pause, that tiny gap between stimulus and reaction, becomes your greatest superpower. You realize, I am not my anger. I am not my fear. I am the one who sees. That's freedom. You discover deep inner calm. When you master your thoughts, you don't have to silence the mind to find peace. You simply stop letting it run the show. Thoughts still come, but you watch them, the way you'd watch leaves float down a stream. You don't grab them. You don't wrestle them. You let them pass. This gives birth to a deep, quiet calm. Not the calm of nothing happening, but the calm of everything being okay. Even when life isn't perfect, even when you're hurting, you carry a stillness within. A monk once said, "The surface of the lake may ripple, but the depth remains still." That becomes you. You rewire your brain. Science now confirms what Buddhist monks have practiced for centuries. Thoughts shape your brain. Repetition forms patterns, and mindfulness rewires them. When you label a thought instead of becoming it, you weaken its grip. When you return to the breath, you strengthen the circuits of peace. Day by day, you are sculpting a calmer mind, a kinder mind, a wiser mind. This isn't spiritual fluff, it's neural reality. You become intimate with yourself. Most people don't know their own minds. They live in a fog of reaction, distraction, projection. But when you master your thoughts, you meet yourself fully. Your fears, your beauty, your shadows, your hopes. You're no longer afraid to sit in silence, because silence becomes sacred. Stillness becomes nourishing. Solitude becomes your sanctuary. You stop running from yourself and start coming home. You become a safe space for others. The more you understand your mind, the more compassion you have for others who are still trapped in theirs. You stop judging. You start listening. You speak less to be right and more to be kind. Your presence calms people. Your energy says, it's okay to slow down. It's okay to feel. It's okay to be human. In a noisy world, you become a silent refuge. That's the power of mastering thought, not just for you, but for everyone you touch. You realize you were never broken. When you master your thoughts, you discover something profound. You were never the storm. You were always the sky. You were never the voice of fear. You were the awareness behind it. You don't have to fix yourself. You just have to stop identifying with every passing cloud. You begin to rest in your true nature. Still, spacious, free. Final reflection. This is the real liberation. So what really happens when you master your thoughts? You don't gain control over life. You gain clarity within it. You don't eliminate pain. You eliminate unnecessary suffering. You don't escape the world. You engage it with wisdom, love, and grace. This is the path the Buddha walked, not to escape, but to awaken. To live with eyes wide open, heart wide open, and mind deeply rooted in peace. And this path is open to you, right now, right here, in this breath. Let this be your beginning. Not the end of a video, but the beginning of a practice, a return to yourself. Because when you master your thoughts, you master your life, and the world around you begins to reflect that peace. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. Take a breath, right here, in this moment. Let it be deep, let it be kind. You've just spent over 30 minutes, not scrolling endlessly, not numbing out, but sitting with your mind, exploring its nature, and remembering your inner stillness. And that is rare and precious. Because in a world that profits off your distraction, your attention is a radical act of freedom. Maybe something in this video touched you. Maybe a story reflected your life. Maybe a practice whispered, "Try me." If so, don't let it just be inspiration. Let it become a seed. Not a seed of pressure or perfection, but a gentle seed of return. Return to breath, return to presence, return to your true self. Again and again and again. That's the practice. Not getting it right, but returning with kindness. Before this video ends, consider this small practice. 1 minute each morning, before the phone, before the rush. Just sit. Breathe. Observe one thought without judgment. Then let it go. That's it. You don't need to shave your head. You don't need to move to a monastery. You just need to be willing to meet your mind with presence. Do that once a day, and over time, your life will quietly transform. If this message resonated with you, if it gave you peace or perspective, or even just a moment of calm, then know this: you're not alone. There's a whole community right here of people who are also walking this quiet path. People who are tired of noise, who are choosing stillness, who are seeking something real. So if you'd like to walk this path together, subscribe. Not as a number, but as a shared intention. We'll keep making videos like this, rooted in Buddhist wisdom, anchored in modern life, spoken from the heart. You can also share this video with someone you care about. Sometimes, one peaceful message can be the medicine someone needs. As you go back to your life, may your thoughts become lighter. May your reactions become fewer. May your breath become deeper, and your heart softer. May you carry peace within, even when the world outside forgets. And may you always remember, you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them. Thank you for spending this time with me. May you be well. May you be safe. May you be free.